Hey there, and welcome back to Mocktails with Marina. My name is Marina, and I am so excited to discuss today's topic, which is all about Las Vegas. And honestly, this one is also going to have a little bit of Phoenix in there, don't get me wrong, but I was based in Vegas back in the day, moved to Phoenix for a bit, came back to Vegas. I have operated in this space both sober and not, and I've also done so in multiple facets of the same industry, general service industry of, being there for people and creating experiences. And I've got to say, there are a lot of nuances that coming back around, I didn't realize the profound effects of certain things, but now I'm here to discuss them with you. So go ahead and, I want you to take a second before we dive into this episode actually, and think of a few experiences you may have had in Vegas if you've ever been there before. And I want you to just think about what activities were surrounding that experience. Now, 99% of people who have come to Las Vegas have come here for fun, right? They usually come here for, a crazy adventure. Maybe it's a bachelorette party. Maybe they're celebrating, a birthday. There's so many different reasons people come out here. Maybe they just had a hard situation in life, so they just need to get away. And so they come here for a getaway. Most people are here for non-work reasons. Some people do come to Vegas for work reasons, right? Because there's a huge convention scene here. But even then, I want to note this difference. When you're working at a convention from a perspective of you're flying in from New York and you're working this convention, yeah, you have a booth at this convention, but after hours, it's still very different if you're not the person who lives here, works here in the service industry. So this episode is very specifically from the context of being part of the crazy team that makes your Vegas experience what it is, how memorable it is, how mythical it is, how many cultural stories have come from Las Vegas, right? And the lore that comes with it. So even if all of us service industry people don't work for the same company, we all work in the same town and we're all providing, a small but very important part of your, circus experience here. So all of that being said, let's start talking about the allure of Las Vegas from that perspective. So knowing that Vegas is a party city, focusing on nightlife, casinos, and overall just the culture of indulgence, what does that mean in terms of alcohol consumption, right? So as many of you likely already know, if you are gambling in a casino in Las Vegas, you get drinks for free. And when I first moved here, I'd always smoke my cigarettes too. So I would love to sit down, play some blackjack, get myself a rum and Coke, and smoke a cigarette. That was my favorite thing. My family is also very into gambling, but not in a not in a way that's concerning. They're really good at it. I'm a mathematician. My dad is really into gambling from a very particular perspective here. So point of the story is, it's not that the vice itself is the gambling. It's more of the vice around the things that support the gambling, right? So for example, like I mentioned, I used to always grab those drinks. It was very normal. I used to always smoke cigarettes. Very normal. But nowadays, when we go out to casinos as a family, honestly, we're usually bowling, and then we just hit a machine on the way out. But there's no more of these indulgences and these free things. But I want to point them out because it's something that is normally, if you want to go buy alcohol at a bar, right, that's going to cost you, depending on where you're at in the country and how cheap of a rail you're getting. I mean, a $5 drink is kind of hard to come by, honestly, nowadays, but usually you're spending average of 10 up to 20, maybe even 30 on a crazy drink at the bar. But they're handing it out like free candy at the casinos because the money that comes from you being loose goes directly into the machines. So normally you can make a lot of money on alcohol, but they're saying, no, you can have it for free because there's something else we see and value in taking from you. This is huge. That changed my entire perspective of things, because growing up in Wisconsin, like, yeah, our bars were definitely cheaper, but moving here made me see, I'm like, wait a second, on that menu, a cocktail costs $30 and right here it's free. And I wanted to figure out what that difference was, right? So as I was becoming sober in Las Vegas, this is when it became a little bit more obvious. So number one important thing to note, if you are a performer in this industry, chances are you get a really shitty minimum payment plus like 2 free drink tickets and then tips, right? And that can be a great deal or a terrible deal depending on the audience, the venue, like tipping policy and procedure, all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to, oh, you're sober, so now what are you going to do with those drink tickets? You know, it changes things. So number one, of course, you can use those to just sell them off into another drink secondhand or another experience, of course. But when you do stuff like that, you start to realize, originally, I was so excited to show up to these shows to grab this drink ticket, to grab that first drink, and to start to get into my, like, it was a muse in a way. It was a way that got me to be able to perform in a way that, like, released any other kind of brain fog I was having. That's what I thought, I should say. Because in reality, once I got sober, obviously my performing got even more sharp and a little bit more concise in terms of the messaging. So, you know, those weren't things that you are aware of when you're handed those drink tickets and you're in the habit of drinking. But the moment you stop and you realize, I don't need any of these things, but that is the vice that is tying us all to this place and tying us to the ground specifically. Because let's put it this way, if you're drinking, you're not sharp. You're missing out on the opportunities to network with the people that will get you the better gigs. If you're too busy drinking and having a good time backstage, for example, you're not going to be in the crowd networking with your fans, with people who could become potential clients if you have a, like, coaching business. Maybe they want to learn how to dance, maybe that you're a life coach, you know, whatever like shtick you're trying to sell, right? If you are too busy being drunk, all of the money is going to go to the establishment. Now, establishment can be in venue, but it can also mean like whatever container, whatever circus you are being contained within. And when you start to realize that, okay, so I got to town around the same time as this person, or maybe even a little bit after. Why am I getting ahead? Why am I getting better gigs? Why am I getting better pay? And why is this person not? We start looking at these subtle nuances, because the moment I stopped drinking, I was able to connect with other people and see, okay, the people who are serious, who are professionals, they're not drinking nearly as heavily as other people are. But again, heavily can literally just mean 2 drinks, guys. And if you're getting 2 free drink tickets and you're underpaid performer and you're like, well, I might as well get my money's worth, it keeps you sedated. It keeps you weak. I also noticed, you know, when I first got to Vegas and I had first started getting into like I was working with people from Cirque du Soleil, right? So I was going to barbecues, but I was also helping like produce these events that were, they were off the strip. They were for the Cirque du Soleil performers that wanted to have a creative outlet, but like couldn't, because, you know, at Cirque you do the same performance for 5 years straight, like a million times a week. So we were creating these events, and, you know, at the parties afterwards, I started to realize really that none of the serious athletes, none of the people who were like high in their field were touching alcohol. Maybe they were touching weed, but they weren't touching alcohol. And I took note of that, and I had started curbing back my drinking before I quit, and I had instantly broken glass ceilings. I was instantly making more progress in both my career and my athletics than I had in years, really, since I had started all of the circus arts and aerial arts, because that was the first time that I was like curbing my alcohol consumption to that point. So, you know, all of this is to say that, okay, drinking in Las Vegas, who am I to tell you to not do something to participate in your vices in Sin City? That's not what I'm trying to say here, because if you're here for a good time, you do you. When you're here on business and you're genuinely trying to make it, this is the thing about Vegas. Everybody hangs out here. It is a world destination. So if you just stay sober, you just focus, you figure out the right rooms to be in, and then the right people to talk to, you will catapult your career so quickly here. It's like, if you come to Vegas sober and ready to perform, the people that need to watch you perform in order for your career to take off, they are here and they will see you. So you just need to show up and do the damn thing sober, and then it will happen. And if you're facing any sort of energetic kind of like pushback, you're like, oh, Marina, I'm sober in Vegas and this hasn't happened for me yet. Okay, well, one thing I will say that I always say to all entrepreneurs here is, usually if something is not working in our business, even if we're a business of one or we have a team, there's something that we are doing to block ourselves, to give ourselves a glass ceiling. There's a mental block that we're having. We need to do more research. We need to see, where are the people? Who are the big players in this? We need to go hang out and get into their mindset. Okay, if I'm a big player here in Vegas and I'm doing all these things, where am I hanging out? What am I doing with my time? So, for example, when Tyler and I got here, this second round of me living in Vegas, coming fully sober with a very, very strong and quite honestly almost tunnel visioned concept right now, where we're just this is our life, like kava, talking about it, non-alcohol, alcohol-free, doing what we can to help sober people get connected with the businesses that want to serve them, and vice versa, and help people build these businesses, help people, grow into their next step. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up, because all we did was show up. Like, we showed up with our vision saying, this is what we're working on. So we made sure to hang out in spaces where we knew other people were working on similar things. And then from there, we just opened discussion. And from there, like, magic is happening that I will be able to tune you guys all into shortly here. But we met a dream team out here that's connecting us with such big players on so many different fronts, that it's like we were all able to find each other because we cleared out the noise. And it seems so wild, like, wow, you're going to go to Vegas to find like business people and do all this thing. Whereas most people think of Vegas as, like I mentioned, this party city, this place where you just like go throw up on your own essentially. And then like no one will hear about it. Like, I really want to point out that this place is just so cool because, again, it is a world stage. Everyone's watching. So if you aren't sober and you're doing something that is very feeding your vices instead of your virtues, it's a world stage. So that's going to be a really hard fall. So my best piece of advice for Vegas and Vegas sobriety, Vegas business, Vegas in general, like the vibe of this city is, this is where you come when you're ready to get on stage, right? This is where you come when you are ready to make those connections, ready to do the thing. You are at your point in sobriety where you can say no, because this will be the ultimate test. I mean, there's free alcohol, people will walk up and down the strip, and if there's a drug, you can find it. Like, there's so many temptations here, because that's the point of Las Vegas. It's a place of indulgence. So you have to be able to be strong enough to be able to say, this is what I'm doing. And then it will give you that gold, because to be a rose in the desert means to be able to understand your resources, to be able to use water when needed, right? And don't put extra shit in you when not, because you will crisp into a little tiny flake of dust here, right? If you are not being intentional about your resources, you're not being intentional about your energy. Now, I mentioned I was going to talk about Phoenix. So where does Phoenix fit in all of this? When I left Vegas the first time and moved to Phoenix, it was because, obviously, the pandemic. I've mentioned that in previous episodes, but I also knew, because the world stage was shut down, and that's what Vegas is for, being the world stage, that means you go other places to get experience and then you bring them to the world stage. So would I recommend for many people to start businesses in Las Vegas? No. I'll be honest with you. No. There is a huge turnover rate. There is a huge failure rate for small businesses, especially in Vegas. There's a lot of restrictions in Clark County that make things very difficult. Even Airbnb can't hang here. Like, it's a very specific town that you have to be laser focused on what you're doing in order for it to give you what you want it to. A lot like gold mining. If you're into prospecting at all, you know how difficult that is, but you know that just a couple grams will get you literally hundreds of dollars. Like, it's crazy what risk and what reward ratio you've got going on here. So again, I moved to Phoenix to go pick up more resources, tools, experience, knowledge, and then when the right time came, after marrying Tyler and, all the things, we came here. We came here not, of course, it's not like we knew exactly everything what we were doing, but we knew that the energy of Phoenix is not the same at all. It's very, to be honest with you, very chaotic. It's like so incredibly densely populated nowadays. Traffic is a mess, and it's just like not as easy. But being in Phoenix is, when it comes to opportunity and that runway, that being able to get off the ground and do the thing, it's a lot easier to do business in Arizona. Like, there's a lot less restrictions. There's it's a lot easier to get started, but you gotta stay focused in all that noise there. So since that one's not as much of a world stage, but it is a world train station, I say that because logistically, it is a logistics center of the United States. It's a great place for a lot of warehouses to be because it's geographically quite safe from certain types of weather events. And, it's right on a major interstate, multiple interstates that can get you from basically the West Coast over through to the rest of the country. So because of that, you're in a prime location for being a train station type of a town where, yes, there are some locals, but there's also a lot of transient businesses that kind of just use it as a hub to send their stuff nationally and then maybe even internationally, depending on industry. So all of that being said, being sober there means something that's a little bit different. So, for example, you can do quite a bit in Phoenix without being hindered, but it can bring you down rabbit holes. So let me give you some examples here. So let's say I am trying out a new kava bar concept. There are so many different areas and places in Phoenix where you've got suburbia, you've got these warehouse districts, you've got downtown districts, you've got Scottsdale, you've got some luxury, you've got some regular old middle class, although the middle class is dwindling, which is sad. You've got a lot of different types of areas too, right? So you've got public parks. You've got mountains to climb and hike. You've got desert that's just untouched over there. You've got all these various different little tiny ecosystems within the ecosystem of Phoenix. So if something doesn't work over here, you can go over there. It's a great R&D spot. Again, with that train station kind of vibe, you have people from all over the country coming through, of course. I wouldn't say it's very international. There's ASU, but it's still not international at this point. So you're very, you're kind of just in this test tube. You can pop into all these little districts, and learn, give or take. And since there's so many people, so much happening there, and it's not all A-list people hanging out there, right? So you've got masses to kind of hide within and learn and grow. Like, there is a lot more to do there when it comes to R&D, is basically what I'm trying to say. And then execution of logistics, of course, is great there. But when it comes to like launching on the world stage, I would not say that Phoenix is the place to do it. It's a place to continue to do it. And kind of like, again, like the basement or the backyard, the place where you store things, do things. And I mean this very lovingly. Those are very important places. I love Phoenix. But when it comes to the pressure, like Phoenix doesn't put pressure on you the same way that Vegas does. And let's say you are sober and, you know, you feel really comfortable, but you know, you're about to be tested. Just understand that your idea is not only going to be tested, but your mindset, your ability to say no to the vices is going to be exercised quite a bit more than you could possibly imagine. So my tips for navigating sober Las Vegas, depending on your goal. I know a lot of what I'm talking about is very like business mindset oriented, but I'm also going to kind of broaden this umbrella a bit here and let's start by just talking about if you are a person coming to Vegas and you're just trying to have a good time sober. I want you to know that you do not go to vegas.com. Don't just go with whatever Google says to do, because alcohol companies pay Google and pay vegas.com and the city of Vegas quite a bit of money in order to be on top where they are. So you have to go with locals on this one. Number one, take a look at the arts district. That area of town is where the locals love to hang out. It's a lot of small businesses are there. You've got antique shops, thrift shops, vintage shops, very, very, like some of the best curated stuff I've ever seen in those categories. You've got delicious eateries. You've got Burlesque Hall of Fame, which is super fun, little museums there. You've got other things to do. There's fun coffee houses and tea shops that are really interesting and really good at what they do. There's one right off of Fremont. It's called Publicus, I believe. It's like a fourth wave coffee shop. They make coffee in the style of like mocktails, essentially. Like I don't even know how to describe them, because they remind me of really high-end cocktails that you would see on the strip, but it's not made out of alcohol. It's made out of coffee. So it's a really awesome place to check out. Obviously, look up Kava in Las Vegas, because while, there's happenings happening. So depending on when you are listening to this episode, there may be more than what I suggest and recommend. But I do know that there is a huge Polynesian culture here, right? So this is the 9th island, of Hawaii. That's what Vegas is called, because so many Hawaiians moved here. And because of that, you're going to have a lot of little pockets here of information, little shops. But then you also have, if you take a look at Chinatown, there are some really great, fun little cafes. If you like bubble tea, like they literally have some of the cutest little things here and places to hang out. And you can also see more on the specifics of these places by heading to my Instagram page, because I do have a little series there where I walk you through some places to go. But also just know, like, there are museums, there are art exhibits, there are incredible national, like, preserves around Vegas. There's so much to do sober. You do not have to enjoy drinking to enjoy Vegas. And in fact, if you wanted to pick up just some of your favorite non-alcoholic beverages and create your own kind of party pack. Maybe you have some Kratom seltzers. Maybe you have some, like Odyssey functional elixirs. Maybe you're drinking a Parch. Maybe you're drinking a Seria Brewing Company, since those have all been mentioned on this podcast. You can, because Vegas is open bottle, you can literally walk around with an open container on the Strip and in Fremont. They're not going to ask you oh, what's in your drink, or, oh, it looks like an alcohol beverage. So, that's that's one part where it's like easier to blend in that way. So you can still definitely enjoy this place very simply. And that's going to bring me to the like business aspect of it, right? So if you're thinking about the fact that this is the service industry, like headquarters, I would say, right? Because it's the headquarters of live entertainment of the world, live entertainment capital of the world, right? So if you're going to learn how to, like, if you're going to serve people, you have to do it the best here. You've got world travelers who are literally coming from all over the world. When I was showgirling, I remember learning, and like it became so much more obvious to me, like, okay, so for those of you who don't know what showgirling is, the showgirls that walk around on the strip, you know, they're like showgirl photos, and you take a photo with them and then they ask you for money. That was me at one point, and I loved that job because in exchange for that photo and that money, I would also give as much Vegas advice as I possibly could. I would help people plan the rest of their trip and say, hey, this is the show you should go to, this is the restaurant you should eat at, and stuff like that. And during this time, you know, within a 4-hour shift, we would tend to like, you'd always go with a partner. I mean, you'd be making hundreds of dollars each, not total. And this would, again, over the course of 4 hours. So if you imagine, like, just one set of showgirls could easily pick up $1,000 off the strip in 4 hours. And then times that by, you know, however many hours there are in the day, times that by however many showgirls are on the strip at any given time. And you're starting to see how much money is walking around the strip just giving their money to showgirls. You haven't even started to consider that they never give us all their money, right? Like, they're only going to give us one of the bills in their wallet, especially the ones that gave us hundreds. They have plenty of hundreds where that came from. There are literally millions of dollars, like physical cash dollars, walking around on the strip, let alone what's on people's credit cards, company cards, personal cards. It is a significant amount of wealth walking around there at all times. There is so many ways to serve people. It's all about getting in front of them and ensuring that they understand exactly how you're going to help them. And you, my friend, are not inebriated while you are providing or looking for these people to serve, because you need to be laser focused and understand, this is what you're looking for. Okay, great. Let me help you like this. I never once went on the strip as a showgirl with any alcohol in my system. I stayed incredibly sharp, not only for my own protection, but so that I could help and be as efficient as possible, giving people exactly what they need. If they say, hey, where is the Bellagio on the strip? I can say it's exactly 2.5 blocks behind us to your right side. I don't have to think about it because that map in my head is so sharp. I'm not like, oh, okay, where are we? Oh, we're at the Flamingo. Oh, okay, well, if we're at the Flamingo, that means the Venetian is to the right, so we got to go to the left to get the blood. Like, no, I'm not going to sit here and like explain my mental map to you. I need to be able to be extremely like spot on with giving you this information in order for you to give me that $100 bill instead of that $20 bill. It's the same thing goes for anything that you are trying to sell here in Vegas. Clearly, there's a huge benefit to that. If you are doing the advice that I'm giving you, because very few people really understand this topic, I'll be honest with you, and this nuance of Vegas, you're going to make all the money, hands down. There are so many opportunities here. I've always thought Vegas was the coolest city on planet Earth ever since I was 13. And even when I still feel that way, and I'm 29, and even when I left Vegas, even when I went to Phoenix, I was so heartbroken the entire time. I only started to feel less sad about it when we came back because of how cool I think the city is. And I've even told people I've told people that who live here and have lived here a lot longer, and they'll just look at me like I'm stupid as shit, or they'll look at me like, oh, you just got here, you have no idea. And it's like, okay, well, actually, I have about 4 years under my belt, which I know is not the longest in Vegas, but I am not naive. I am not stupid. I made enough money here to pay for the down payment on my first house that I bought alone without a single cosigner. So don't tell me Vegas does not have the ability to create magic. Of course, it can absolutely create a nightmare. When Tyler and I were, scrolling through the gram the other day, we saw that Bruno Mars has a crazy large gambling addiction, right? We're talking to people who, work very intimately with the Raiders and how there's a huge alcohol problem going on with the team right now and other teams as well. But for example, you take a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you see that they're drinking kava and you see that they don't have the same problems. There's this problem that I'm talking about, this success in Vegas versus, bopping around a little bit. This has nothing to do with your class. This has nothing to do with your wealth, your background, your anything other than your mindset and what you choose to do with your time in Vegas. It can even bring down and take the wealth from people who have lots of money and lots of opportunity and no reason, at least in our minds, to gamble all that money away, but yet they do it anyway. You have to be sharp. You can't assume the world is just this place that's here to support you. The thing is, there's a lot of service industry, service providers that say that they're here to help you. And in reality, they're here to fuck you over. They just want to take your money. They don't care that they actually put some carcinogenic product within their service bundle. They don't care that they're doing something that eases you into drinking more alcohol and, further your addiction. There's a lot of people out there that don't care about you, even though they say they're in the service industry, but yet their marketing from another department within their company has led you to believe otherwise. And I'm not here to say be untrusting of the world around you, but I am saying that this world is full of angels, of course, but it also has some demons in there. And there's always going to be people that take advantage of you. And if you're in Sin City thinking that you're safe from all of that, you're not. You're simply not. It's a great place to be risky because there's plenty of risks to take here. So you got to be smart about your risks to ensure that you are making it worth it. Because of course, you can't make money, you can't make impact without there being risks. So it's ripe for opportunity of risk here. More than any other place I've ever seen. And that means that if you come here with vices that you don't know how to control or you don't have a great support system, you're going to have a hard time. But if you are strong enough and mentally sharp enough to understand what you're trying to focus on and do here, then you're going to do great. But you cannot have this mindset that you have it all figured out, you arrive, you do it, because then it's going to sneak up and get you. Tyler and I always stay in the mindset of we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, but no one can talk us out of the fact that we have an incredibly strong foundation. We're down to add to that foundation when new information arises, but we're not going to allow, someone else to sneak in and throw their dream into it and knock ours off track, right? This is the definition in my eyes of the perfect balance of masculine and feminine, where it's you need to have structure, but you need to have flow. And this is the place that's going to test you on that. So all of that being said, I love Vegas. I will always love Vegas. I love operating out of here and Phoenix. We obviously still have technically our business is based out of Arizona, but we also have another one here in Vegas. So it's there are advantages to so many other cities, and I'm happy to talk about other places that I've lived and worked as well. I like to focus on these two because it's most relevant to me right now. And I think that, when we're looking, anybody listening in who's in the kava industry, who's in just the zero proof, non-alcoholic industry, Vegas is in this really special moment, and so is Phoenix, where there are not a lot of businesses there that are catering to this niche. Now, yes, you see a lot of the hotels and casinos are adding mocktails to their menus here and there. Nothing to write home about yet at all. But I will say there's so much opportunity, especially in Phoenix. I can't stress this enough. Phoenix needs kava bars. Phoenix needs alcohol-free bars right now. So if you are listening in and you want to open something there, please reach out to me. It needs to happen. But again, also Vegas has a lot of space for meeting those connections to where you're going. So the last thing I want to wrap up this episode talking about is that convention center thing that I was talking about in the beginning. So a lot of people, very few people actually live in Vegas, right? It's literally like only a couple million people are actually here, but 40 million people visit per year. And in those conventions, Tyler and I went to one last week where it was one of those wholesale, like business to business type conventions where, they just give out a bunch of samples and you see if these are products you want to carry in your bar or your online store or whatever. And during this time, we made so many incredible connections and were able to also, like, so many epiphanies were being had about how we need to write this next business plan. And so my biggest advice to you is, like, I'm not saying, hey, move to Vegas to get on the world stage with your dream. No, that's just how it worked out for me. But what I am saying is Vegas is a world stage. So you need to look into what conventions are had here. There are all different kinds of conventions. This is the best place to get your business launched or your next business initiative launched. Not only can you do a lot of word of mouth marketing that is incredibly powerful here because you have very powerful players and everyone's talking and networking, but also you're going to meet people that ordinarily you would only maybe have a phone call with or an email. And I'm sure you're the same way as me. I delete and ignore a lot of fucking emails and a lot of phone calls that are like marketed towards me rather than like clients that I'm trying to like talk to and stuff. And because of that, like being in Vegas at these conventions, now there's a name to the face. You physically shook their hand. Maybe you even added each other on Instagram. Like you're like, oh, like, here, let's exchange phones and make sure we have each other's like contact. That is incredibly like 100 times more powerful. You are way more likely to convert and make things happen. Every time I've met people online, I'm not saying that my online friends and friendships haven't been cool. Like they're great. And I love the people that I've met and have been able to develop deep relationships with online. But that doesn't happen like nearly as often as it does in person, even with paid ads. I'm not saying that, like, of course you can develop the right sales funnels, you can develop all of these business tools, but if you really focus on one person at a time in person at these conventions, you are going to realize that you may have just met your next tribe member. Like, every time Tyler and I think, okay, we finally have a dream team, we know we have all the resources to make our dreams happen, we're so blessed, this is amazing. And then the next day we meet someone else who's like, actually, hi, I'm a new person, and you thought your dream was good enough yesterday. Well, let me tell you this other tool I have and how I can help you with your dream, because your dream has also actually been my dream, even though we just met, and here's how I can help. And then it's like, oh my God. So instead of, just starting out as consultants with our own little grassroots podcast here, which is awesome and amazing, and it does fulfill us and makes us feel happy, but we're walking into opportunities now where we can have a very much larger stage. And again, I'm so sorry I have to keep teasing these things. I'll give you more details soon. But point of this story is we're able to get well above the clouds and well off the ground with our vision because of the people that we're seeing and shaking hands with and forming genuine connection with. So head out to Vegas, have a good, fun, sober time at a great convention, and that would be my best piece of advice for you to make some serious headway, break some glass ceilings in your business. Of course, you can reach out to me as well, and I'm here and happy to help you in any way, shape, and form. If you want to start your business or you want to organize it better, create a franchisable territory structure, you name it, you just let us know. Thank you so much for listening to this Vegas episode with a little bit of Phoenix on the side. Next week, we're going to talk about a very, very, very important topic regarding botanicals. So when we're creating these functional mocktails, how do we make sure we don't hurt people? What is the right serving size? Like, how do we make sure we do this responsibly and we don't hurt people as well as our own industry? I'm so excited to dive deeply into that topic. Until then, Thank you guys for being here. Send me an email, hello@marinamars.com, if anything here struck. If you have questions about what conventions happen here, what you can do to get more connected in person and to break your glass ceilings, I've got your back. So just let me know if you need anything.